This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
What's up, everybody? You're listening to the First Take podcast. I'm Molly Karam. When was the last time you ordered clothes online and got to try them on before buying them? Never, right? Well, that's exactly what jackthreads.com does. You can try anything on at home for free, and you only pay for what you keep. So whether it's a big name brand or the Jack Threads in-house line, you can be sure you are 100% in love with the items you ordered before spending a cent. So choose anything you want, try it on at home for free. You'll have 7 days to decide if it's working for you. And then Jack Threads gives you everything you need to send things back, packing tape and prepaid shipping labels. So go to jackthreads.com, enter code FIRST when you submit your tryout for 20% off anything you keep. That's jackthreads.com, code FIRST to save 20% on anything you keep. Never buy before you try, ever again.
Good day. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much for joining us on the First Take podcast. The Cowboys win again, but is America's team more lucky than good? Also, which quarterback would you want the rest of the season, Tom Brady or Russell Wilson? And does the UFC need McGregor more than McGregor needs the UFC? Let's get it started. How good was yesterday? Week 10 did not disappoint. Best week so far in the NFL. It was one ridiculously good game after another. First Take on a Monday. Good day, everybody. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith, Donovan McNabb. Always good to have you in the house. Oh, boy. You got a tood. You have a serious tood. He wouldn't smile all morning. I was in the makeup room like, Stephen A., could you please at least smile? Got the side
Molly, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
The only thing that made last night's Cowboy win bearable for me is the knowledge that he was suffering worse than I was.
Oh, he's still suffering.
That actually made it better for me.
Love you, buddy. All right, let's get into it. Coming up, how about them Cowboys? Conor McGregor puts on a show at MSG on Saturday. So can the UFC survive without their Irish star? And Tony Romo expected to be Dak Prescott's backup next week. But is it somewhere other than Dallas where Tony will be sooner than later? But we start at Heinz Field, where Cowboys Steelers certainly lived up to the hype. 6 two-point tries went unsuccessful. 7 lead changes. Cowboys aided through a face mask to Jason Witten, and with 9 seconds left, Zeke, the difference maker, 32-yard burst up the middle, and Dallas goes on to win 8 straight for the first time since 1977. That year, gentlemen, they won the Super Bowl. Stephen A., are the Cowboys lucky or are they good?
They lucky as hell. They're lucky as hell. Look. Let me tell y'all something right now, man. I'm so disgusted today. The Dallas Cowboys are lucky because they ended up going up against a Steelers defense that is non-existent. They showed up against a Steelers defense that flat out stinks. They are sorry, and I can't stand them right now. I cannot believe how awful the Steelers defense was yesterday. Let me tell you something right now. First of all, the touchdown that you gave up, the 14-yard touchdown run to Ezekiel Elliott with under 2 minutes left, that was bad enough because it looked like you were going in intentionally because the defense was nowhere to be found. But then the 32-yard run, I mean, my God, it was a hole as wide as Broadway on a Sunday morning when everybody's partying Saturday night and they're going, and so you walk on Broadway, Max, and there's nobody there. I know it from my years doing sports reporters when it was in New York City. I know how empty Broadway is on a Sunday morning at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. That's how wide that hole was for Ezekiel Elliott last night. It was absolutely disgraceful. Three first downs by Dak Prescott, 50-yard bomb from Zach to Des Bryant. Artie Burns, why the hell are you there? His name is Burns. It was appropriate because he got burned, okay? Don't get Shazier is supposed to be one of your fastest defenders. Ezekiel Elliott just smoked him. He's nowhere to be found. And, oh, by the way, you had a defense that didn't look like they wanted to tackle as the game waned. They were getting pushed around. They were getting punked. They're non-existent. I've been telling Mike Tomlin for years, the secondary stinks, and certainly that's what happened. The linebackers ain't that much damn better. And by the way, coming into the game, you only had 11 sacks, which was tied with 2 other teams for last in the NFL. I am so disgusted with this Steelers. Mike Tomlin and Colvin and those boys, they got to do something. They just got to do something. I mean, The steel curtain, the Steelers have been synonymous with greatness on the defensive end of on the defensive side of the ball. You know this, Donovan McNabb, but somehow, someway, if Donovan probably sat up there. How long you been retired, bro? How long have you been retired?
This is 6 seasons.
6 seasons, right? How much you want to make a bet Donovan McNabb was watching the game yesterday, or Donovan went like this? Damn, I could throw on this team. I guarantee you he was thinking like that.
Depends on who I'm throwing to.
There we go. You see what I'm saying? So we got a situation where the Steelers just defensively flat out stink, wasted a 400-yard performance by Big Ben Roethlisberger, a decent performance by Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, decent performance. I just can't believe Dallas is lucky because they showed up against a team that can't play defense. Well, steel curtain with no curtains.
Have they been doing that all year? First of all, the reason you're out on Broadway at 5 or 6 in the morning, the sports reporters think is a likely story. You sound like you're coming out of Nathan Detroit's floating crap game or something.
No,
5 in the morning Donovan on a Sunday on Broadway at 5 in the morning.
I was just listening. I just roll with it.
It's the truth.
So the Cowboys, are they lucky or are they good? So the Steelers played bad defense last night, and
answer the question, man.
We talked about Mike Tomlin saying, and I always talk about, I loved him from that first press conference, Steelers football, run the ball, stop the run. Who's this Mike Tomlin? Oh, that's Mike Tomlin. Love it. And they didn't do that. But that's because the Cowboys are good. Is every team that the Cowboys played, are they all bad defensively? Because their point differential on the year, and we know their defense is not their calling card, is plus 88. Does anyone know where that ranks in the NFL right now? 10 points better than the Patriots. It kills me to say, because I hate the Cowboys. It's like poison in my mouth. But they're not just good, they're really good. Yeah. I thought what you were going to talk about, Stephen A., was the Witten face mask that gave him 15 yards and there wasn't a lot of time left, and maybe that's why they go to the running play, because otherwise they're not even in field goal range. But even then, they might still win that game because they'd already hit a 53-yard field goal, the Cowboys, right?
Bailey is pretty good.
Bailey hit a 53-yard field goal. I know Pittsburgh's tough to kick in, but say 50-yard line is the field goal where you start to feel good about it. So they only really needed to pick up. They were on the 47, minus 18. They needed to pick up about 15 yards, which they could have done with a run. They still had a timeout. So even if you take away the face mask, which was fortunate for Dallas because forward progress had been stopped with Witten, even then, there's a good chance they go on to win this game. And luck is the residue of design. They're good. That's why they're in a position to get lucky. I hate to admit it, Cowboys Nation, but your boys can play.
Well, the whole thing about it, when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, their secondary, to me, was pretty good when they had back in with Ike Taylor, when he was healthy and he was running as one of the top corners. But at this particular point, we have to give credit to the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys offense is securing the line of scrimmage. They're able to run the football with Ezekiel Elliott. And then now their quarterback is not turning the football over. He's efficient on third down. He's moving the ball downfield. Everybody knows that Jason Witten is getting the ball, and you still can't cover Jason Witten. Cole Beasley is his number one wide receiver. You still can't cover him. Why? Because you have to focus in the backfield of what Ezekiel Elliott has been able to do. Now, the guy that deserves a lot of the credit is Scott Linehan. Scott Linehan, the offensive coordinator, is the guy that's been dialing up all of these plays that makes his quarterback comfortable. This isn't the same offense that we've seen with Tony Romo and the Dez Bryant effect and DeMarco Murray going into Green Bay and losing on a call that everybody is still arguing about. This is a balanced offense that allows their quarterback to sit in the pocket, diagnose the defense, and be able to be effective in the passing game. This is something that's balanced. And it's not about the Pittsburgh Steelers, because for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're supposed to pass for 400 yards on a depleted secondary. Claiborne's out. Carr's moving around. Scandrick gets hurt. They bring McFadden off a practice squad. You also had Church hurt. Now you got Wilcox back there in the back doing something he's not used to doing.
Defensively anyway. They're not world beaters.
But my thing is, that's what I'm talking about. You're supposed to pass for over 300 yards with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. You got Green stepping up. You got guys coming out of nowhere catching passes for Ben Roethlisberger. Give credit to their offensive line. But when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, and I've had this argument over the last couple of weeks, I didn't think that they were a top 3, top 4 team in the NFL. I thought that they were the number 2 ranked team behind Seattle because I think at some point they're going to hit the wall. And I think their defense is going to struggle. But at this point, offensively, they're the number 2 ranked team to me.
Well, I appreciate this love fest for the Dallas Cowboys.
You know I don't like Dallas, but I give credit where credit is due.
I don't know about you right now, Donovan. I don't know about you right now. I'm very upset. I'm very emotional. I admit it, damn it. This is how I feel, but I'm going to back it up.
I can see that vein popping out of your forehead.
That's right. The hairline is back there, so I'm good. You can see it even more visible. I don't
Maybe
care.
if you calm down, the hairline
Don't tell me to
will come
calm down right now, Max Kellerman. You sit back. Don't tell me to calm down right now. Don't you dare tell me to calm down right now. Let me go to this. We talking about the defense, right? Talking about the Steelers, right? Yeah. All right, they ranked 28th against the pass and all of this other stuff. All right, that's fine. We want to sit up there and rave about the Dallas Cowboys. Let's look at the defenses that they played against Donovan McNabb. Giants. Yeah, thank you.
I'm not saying
no. Trust me. I promise you. Nobody's going to step out and say, oh, that defense is elite. Other than the Philadelphia Eagles, who were playing good defense up until they ran into the
until they got exposed in that game.
They did not necessarily that much, though. I mean, 29-23, you know what I'm saying? Certain breaks happen, turnovers, et cetera, et cetera. We all know that the Eagles, they messed up in some occasions. They played well in some occasions.
They handed them the game.
But wait a minute, though. Just look at this. These are the Dallas Cowboys opponents this year. Giants. Redskins, game 2 of the season.
Right.
All right. Chicago Bears. Really? Okay. San Francisco 49ers. Okay. Cincinnati Bengals, haphazard as they are. Come on now.
They've been bad on defense, too.
Dysfunctional, and Vontaze Burfict just come back. Come on now. All right. Green Bay Packers. Really? Okay. Of course, Philly. And then the Cleveland Browns before the Steelers. Let's not act like the Dallas Cowboys rolled up against Seattle or somebody. By the way, other
but
point.
You named Philadelphia like that's a typical NFL schedule. One or two good ones.
I'm not talking about Philadelphia. I said eliminate Philadelphia. The other 7 points. Don't you get me started. Don't act like you don't know what I'm saying. Now, here's the deal. 4-game losing streak for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've allowed 4 touchdowns of 50 yards or more in the last 4 games. I mean, these are the Steelers. I mean, what? Mean Joe Green his heart is aching. I mean, Jack Lambert, Jack Ham, Mel Blount. I'm going way back, ain't I? I mean, are you kidding me?
We're living in the past right now.
Excuse me.
None of those defensive players are showing up on the great space coasters.
All I'm saying is this. I'm going to say this. I don't like the way Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben Roethlisberger come out speaking what they have spoken because that's taking shots at Mike Tomlin without even recognizing that, which is something we will revisit later on this week. But the Steelers' defense is non-existent. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed.
We're going to get into it now. We have plenty more on America's Team coming up in the show, but we want you at home to get involved. Go on Twitter now. Vote in our poll question today. Should Ezekiel Elliott be the NFL MVP right now? We'll give you those results a little later in the show. Let's get to the other side of the matchup. Keep that vein going on Stephen A's face. Ben Roethlisberger did not mince words after the Steelers' 4th straight loss. Here he is.
I just think leadership is an issue. We just got to make plays and like I said, be accountable and be disciplined.
And you said accountable a couple of times. How do you get to that point?
I don't know. Is it players? Is it coaches? I don't know, but we need to get there quick.
Ooh, trouble in paradise. Ben calling out everyone, maybe even his own coach. But how responsible is Mike Tomlin for the Steelers' struggles this season? Mr. Smith.
He shares culpability. We all know that you can't find a bigger fan of Mike Tomlin than me because I think he's a leader of men. And that's incredibly important to me. Guys getting motivated, guys being focused, guys understanding what their responsibilities are, etc. You've got former coordinators that become head coaches, and they know football in and out in terms of X's and O's, but don't know how to lead men.
Right.
I believe that Mike Tomlin is a born leader. Having said all of that, you can't draft as many picks as they've drafted on the defensive side of the ball, whether it's Jarvis Jones and Shazier or, whomever else that you may have out there, the Artie Burns of the world and others, and have a defense that continuously and religiously have suffered to this point. So does he share culpability? Yes, but he shares it with the GM. And he shares it with the defensive coordinator because the combination of those 3 individuals are supposed to have this ship steered in the right direction, not just in terms of personnel, but in terms of production. Where Mike Tomlin is elevating him or is being, whether it's elevated or diminished to the hot seat, is when you've got a Le'Veon Bell weeks ago saying the same mistakes we make during the game are the same mistakes we make in practice. Where you've got Big Ben Roethlisberger, a future Hall of Famer and a 2-time Super Bowl champion, who is saying similar things. That does not make things look good. And I'm going to go a step further, and I'm going to go here. even though the NFL, that is not the same problem that exists in college football. When you have African-American coaches that are put in those positions and there are questions about what you're doing as it pertains to discipline and it pertains to focus. As a reporter for 20-plus years covering sports, it is my history, in terms of what I know to be true, that when those kind of questions are presented about a black coach, that is never a good thing. I think that it's time to get a little bit concerned about Mike Tomlin, because when words like that, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't, because he's a Super Bowl champion and went to 2 Super Bowls. But it shouldn't be. I want to be clear about that. It should not be. But when those quotes are being made by players, that is never a good thing.
Look. Mike Tomlin, in 6 of 9 seasons, has at least 10 wins. Now think about the NFL for a second. What's the top team been throughout the Tomlin era and even going back further? The Patriots. Yeah. The Patriots always have a winning record, and almost always, whenever Brady's healthy, are in the playoffs, right? And usually, if Brady has anything on offense, they're making a Super Bowl run. That's the top team. No team's going to look good in comparison to that. You know what the Steelers are? They're right under that in the Mike Tomlin era. A bad season for most NFL teams, 5-11, right? 6-10, you like to do better. A bad season for Mike Tomlin is 8-8. When he goes 8-8, as he did in consecutive years, what happened to the Steelers? You know what he did last year? He started 5-4. He went 10-6. And by the way, right now they're 4-5 because they just barely lost, according to you, unluckily, to an 8-1 team. Go back in time and look at, so 10-6, 11-5 before that. Then he had those couple of 8-8 seasons, 12-4, 12-4. Do you know how many teams in the NFL are praying that they can get a coach like Mike Tomlin, that when his team, and they're still in the thick of things in their division. This is panic time because, heaven forbid, the Steelers might have a 500 record one year. Tomlin is an absolute elite coach, and it is absurd to question him compared to his peers. You want to say Belichick, you maybe want to say Pete Carroll, a couple others. That's it. He's in that category.
Well, it's not just, African-American coaches, also quarterbacks and everybody in predominant positions. Yes. When things like that are leaked out, it's a bad thing. African-Americans.
That's right.
But as far as Mike Tomlin is concerned, let's take into account that your quarterback hasn't been healthy for a full season. Mm-hmm. And let's go back to 2009. Before 2009, the consistency of Ben Roethlisberger, they go as far as Ben takes them. So at this particular point, when I listen to the quotes from Ben Roethlisberger, it's not about Mike Tomlin. It's about individuals being accountable for their mistakes. Offensively, they know the mistakes that they made. Le'Veon Bell talked about it in the beginning of the season. We are making the same mistakes that we make in practice. That's on the offensive end. But what Ben is talking about as a unit, as a team, being the leader of a team, you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, did I do my job? Defensively, we just talked about it. No, they did not do their job. Defensive linemen are not in their gaps. Linebackers are not overflowing into the position to be able to make the tackles. You see them outrunning plays. That's why you're getting big plays. Defensive backs are not in the right position.
Let me get this straight. They're not doing their job, and as a result, you lose by the skin of your teeth, aided by a face mask when the play is dead, to an 8-1 team that has the best point differential in the league.
Mike Tomlin is not the one out there grabbing face masks. Mike Tomlin is not the one missing tackles. They're in the right position to be successful.
That's what I'm saying.
These players are not making the plays they're made to be made.
That's what I'm saying. I guess everyone thinks they're pretty damn good if this is like disaster.
But this is the whole thing. If a coach has been there for as long as Mike Tomlin or in Green Bay, what we're seeing in Green Bay, it begins to get stale. It begins to get stale because defensively they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And offensively, you had a great game. But what happened last week in Baltimore? Offensively, they looked awful. They didn't run the ball.
I need to chime in here because here's my discomfort for especially what you said. Nobody's saying that Mike Tomlin should be gone.
Right.
What we're saying is that's what folks who may want to get at him might take from everything that's transpiring.
They'll use
it.
Because the undisciplined.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, let's also point this out, Max. From 1998, whether it was at Arkansas State or the University of Cincinnati where he was coaching defensive backs, to being in the NFL in 2006 as the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. What do we usually say? What do I religiously say? whatever your signature is, whatever got you the job is what you have to make sure that you do. New Orleans, Sean Payton is relatively safe. You know why? He has an offensive background. Their offense is firepower. It's defense that's a problem, but that ain't his signature. Mike Tomlin was defense. But in 2014, 2 years ago, their defense pass against the pass ranked 27th. Last year, it ranked 30th. This year, it's ranking 27th. You can't ignore what's transpiring. To me, I love Mike T. He could be my head coach any day of the week.
Great guy.
He can't go, oh, he's a fan. He's a
Great
born
guy.
leader, man. I mean, he's the real deal. But the flip side is that when you're perceived as having say, and you're picking this personnel, and this personnel, which you're loaded with because you got 6, 7 starters that are drafted.
I want to address that.
And they're not getting it done. Ultimately, somebody's going to come and look at you. Right now in Pittsburgh, I was just in Pittsburgh last week, remember? These guys are holding Mike Tomlin accountable.
I want to address that real quick. If someone has ulterior motives for going at a coach for race or any other reason, shame on them.
No, I'm not saying that.
Nor does that mean that
That's not
race
what I'm
should be a
saying.
shield and anyone's above criticism, even if they're a great coach. Just in my analysis, if you think Tomlin's not a great coach, you're not thinking about things very clearly. That's one. Two, to your point about you better be strong where you're calling on your calling card, right? If it's defense, be good defensively. To my way of thinking, it's more impressive that a guy who comes in on the merits of his defense looks at what he has and goes, okay, this is how we're going to be able to win
But
games.
you played a part in picking what you have.
Yeah, when you're
can't be ignored.
responsible for going to
Okay.
get the groceries, you have to at least be able to.
That's
cook
right.
Right.
what
and he's cooking up a 10-6 record last year, for
But
example.
that was last year when they got hot toward the end. There's no reason we see them getting hot toward the end. Now, I say they will be a sleeper and getting a wild card.
They came with a hair of
can't go off and just almost beat
You can't
Dallas.
have
You
a
didn't
defensive
win.
background to be ranked 27th or worse against
Right.
the pass. You can't do it, Matt.
The
And not only
Broncos
that,
went from all offense, no defense, to all defense, no offense, went to 2 Super Bowls within 3 years.
That's another team. This isn't the
This is
Pittsburgh
not
Steelers.
that's not the Pittsburgh
They're
Steelers.
known for their offense.
And, oh, by the way, Max, Mike Tomlin has a Super Bowl championship and a Super Bowl berth. But just last week, we were talking about Mike McCarthy and how the Green Bay goes to the playoffs every year, but only one title because Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback. He's got Big Ben.
We've got to go to break. This game had 7 lead changes. This next one had 8. Russell Wilson getting the better of Tom Brady at Foxborough last night. But which of the two would you want the rest of the season? You might be surprised by this one. Donovan, you are staying put, my friend. And the Cowboys star running back goes bananas in Pittsburgh Sunday, causing King James to tweet Zeke with a hashtag MVP and Rookie of the Year. I forgot he's a Cowboys fan.
Go play basketball.
Elliott be the MVP favorite right now. Find out that a little bit later in the show. First Take, just getting started.
How come he ain't commenting about the Browns?
For the Indians.
Yeah.
But about last night, Russell Wilson outplayed Tom Brady in Foxborough. Brady with his first interception of the year. Meanwhile, Wilson connected with Doug Baldwin for 3 TDs. We're now into the second half of the season. Max,
Yeah.
who are you taking the rest of the year, Wilson or Brady?
Told you before the game. Russell Wilson. And I don't know why this is surprising to people. This is what Tom Brady did last year. First half of last year, people are forgetting already. The first half of last year, it wasn't quite like this. I admit that. It wasn't quite like it's been this year, but it was damn close. Tom Brady was the runaway MVP in the first half. There was nothing to talk about. He was the best player in football. No one was thinking about Cam Newton in the first half. Forget about Russell Wilson. And Tom Brady's first half QBR last year, 81. Best. Russell Wilson, 58. Huh? All right. Right? First half. Second half, what happened? Tom Brady's QBR, 59. Russell Wilson's, 85. It almost exactly flipped. Now, you could say, well, Brady was missing a lot of guys on offense. Yeah, these things happen. Yeah. Things tend to equalize.
The Seahawks started slow last year, too.
But an older quarterback over the course of a season versus a younger quarterback, that's one. Two is, the Seahawks' philosophy is the opposite of what I guess mine would be if I ran an NFL team. I like what the Cowboys did. Invest resources on the offensive line, have a juggernaut there. Whoever you plug in is going to look amazing. If you have a good running back like Zeke, he's going to look like he's better than Todd Gurley, which I don't actually think he is, but he's going to look like it. And Dak Prescott, a promising young quarterback, is going to look like an MVP because of that O-line. That makes sense to me. Seahawks seem to have a different philosophy. Let's not invest too much on the O-line, and then over the course of the year, through coaching and playing together, chemistry, they'll get stronger and stronger as the season goes on. Why did I mention the QBRs from last year? And this takes into account touchdowns, interceptions. I don't want to go on a whole statistical thing, but with Brady, it was like last year, it was 22 touchdowns and 2 interceptions first half. And then for it was the opposite in the second half. Not a lot of touchdowns, more interceptions. Same thing for Russell Wilson. 25 TDs, 2 interceptions in the second half. Okay. So what did they do last night? Just like last year. First half of this year, Brady 91 QBR, Wilson 58 in the first half. What did they do last night? Exactly flipped. Brady 59, Wilson 91. Here we are in the second half of the season. Seahawks philosophy affecting the way things are going. Russell Wilson starts to look like a world beater. Tom Brady comes back down to earth.
All right.
Donovan.
I mean, let's throw that away somewhere. Exactly. I mean, how many numbers we got to? You're like the Google king over here.
How about
let's go by the eye test. You can talk about
Thank you. I've been telling them that for years.
You can talk about the
about the eye test.
You can
Please
talk
do.
about the
Who was the
age
best
of Tom
quarterback
Brady.
on the field last night?
Tom Brady was.
Who's better than Russell Wilson?
Tom Brady was. Look,
eyeball test.
Tom Brady is the same guy that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. What? Because he threw his first interception all of a sudden.
How many touchdowns he threw?
We heard you speak.
Let's look at the two offenses. The thing that I worry about the Seattle Seahawks is their identity. They said they were going to go back to their same type of style of running the football and allowing Russell Wilson to play well from the pocket and use his legs. I didn't see that yesterday. Yeah, we saw some different running backs be able to carry the football, but I thought what happened was the defense was exposed from New England more than the offense flourished from Seattle. Now, when you look at the New England Patriots, you got to give Josh McDaniels a lot of credit. All of a sudden, LeGarrette Blount is getting more carries because they want to be balanced in the offense. Gronkowski, until he ran into Earl Thomas on that nice streak route down the numbers, his heart seemed like it shook from one side to the next. He wasn't the same. Julian Edelman started to come along a little bit. But you have to look at New England. The reason they get to the places, they get to AFC Championships, Super Bowls, because they turn it on at the right time. Because they're balanced. They're spreading the ball around. Guys are all of a sudden start stepping up. Chris Hogan, 7-11 as they call him, is a guy that no one talks about, but he's elevated this passing game a little more because it's not about Gronk. It's not about Edelman all the time. You got other guys stepping up and making big plays for him. So who would I take? I would take Tom Brady because I know what I'm getting from Tom Brady in that offense instead of waiting to see.
Even though last year Russell Wilson was way better in the second half.
Get off of last year.
Okay, what about last night? Wilson was the better quarterback last night.
Get off of last year. Talk about last year.
You said he wasn't the better quarterback.
Tom Brady was the better quarterback.
Why,
don't get me wrong. All right, because he threw Russell Wilson threw 3 touchdowns yesterday.
Yeah,
but what's led up until this point?
Last night we're talking about.
Listen, you brought up the numbers of last year, the QBRs and all that. I'm going to talk about what led up until this
You don't want to look
point.
at the second half of last year, nor do you want to look at
last night. Why do we bring up last year? Last year for what? He was an MVP. Russell Wilson was an MVP candidate last year.
On what basis are you talking about last night Tom Brady was better than Russell Wilson?
I'm worried about the offenses that I'm seeing from Seattle.
Not an answer.
It is an answer.
It is an answer. I'm worried about last night. It's the same thing because I didn't see anything that would solidify.
How is Seattle's offense against Buffalo?
The problem I had with Seattle at this particular point, I had them the number 1 team in the NFC, and the only reason I put Dallas ahead of them because I didn't see anything change from that offense. And the same goes from last night.
Before Stephen A. chimes in, did the Seattle offense come alive against the Bills the week before this one? For the first time this season, did they score 31 points or not?
What? One game?
Okay.
What did they do against Miami? What did they do against the Rams?
Okay, wait a minute. So then last night, what did they do against New England? Did they come alive?
Last night, it exposed the defense of New England.
Did they expose the defense of Buffalo?
So this is the question that everybody's going to ask.
Because they're in the second half.
The defense of Buffalo. Just stop.
Really?
Seriously. Just stop it. You just throw it right there. You go out the way.
Hold on.
Let somebody else speak. We heard you. We heard your numbers. We heard your analysis.
That Tom Brady was the better quarterback on the field last night.
That's 2 games in the second half of this year, and their offense is alive, just like I told you it would be.
I listened to you enough. Yeah. First of all, if Seattle deserves one element of credit, it's the fact that they were all the way in Buffalo on Monday night. And they came back across the country. I thought fatigue was going to get the better of them. It did not happen. They deserve credit for that. But here's what you have to pay attention to as well. When you think about New England and Brady as opposed to Russell Wilson, Max Kellerman said that we can never count out Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Max Kellerman said we have to pay attention to the Dallas Cowboys and respect them. Max Kellerman pointed out a few weeks ago, Minnesota's no joke when I told you Sam Bradford and that offensive line would crumble like a bag of cheap bricks. I tried to tell you, you wouldn't listen, okay? So I gave you all of these teams in the NFC. Who does Tom Brady have to worry about in the AFC? Let's count the ways. Trevor Siemian, Alex Smith, I understand Big Ben Roethlisberger, but is that still a secondary? Don't get me started.
Derek Carr and Oakland.
That defense is awful.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is the road to prosperity for Tom Brady, if you want to go by paper, is clearly easier than the road
to get to the Super Bowl before the season started.
But that's not where I'm going. What I'm saying to you is this. When we talk about Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, nobody's trying to knock what Russell Wilson brings to the table. But the issue at question is Tom Brady versus Russell Wilson. I'm also not taking into account just the greatness of Tom Brady, which is consistent, by the way, because I still haven't gotten over that damn interception that Russell Wilson threw in that Super Bowl. Let me be clear. But the other side to it is this. Who's your competition? The NFC is tough. The road to the Super Bowl, I almost want to throw up a saying is, listen.
Brady or Wilson?
Listen, I love me some Cam Chancellor. The fact that Cam Chancellor, you didn't bring him up, which is blasphemous.
It's the reason they played the way they played.
That you would talk about the Seattle Seahawks and not even bring up Cam Chancellor. You should be ashamed of yourself based on that alone, that you didn't even bring up Cam Chancellor.
Well, so the question was Wilson or Brady. Let's be fair. We were talking about the quarterback.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is he's talking about Russell Wilson and Brady, but you're also basically leaning towards the prosperity you assume they will. Who
was better last night, Russell Wilson or Tom Brady, Stephen A. Smith?
To me, it was Brady. But the point that I'm
last night, Tom Brady's better than Russell Wilson. I'm talking to crazy people.
No, you're talking numbers. I don't. I keep trying to tell you for the summer.
Get off the numbers.
The numbers are records of events.
I keep trying to tell you.
They're saying it's not about the touchdowns. It's what got you the touchdowns.
Even though yours, how you won't use the eye test.
Okay, let's use the eye test.
I don't understand.
Let's use the eye test. How did Russell Wilson's wheels look? Rolling out of pressure and finding guys.
Does Tom Brady have wheels?
No, that's one of the reasons that.
So why did you even bring the wheels into effect?
Should the refs
think about what you're saying.
Interference on Gronk?
You're saying because Wilson has an advantage over Brady, don't weigh the advantage?
Let me say this.
They don't want to decide that.
To answer your question, we're done with you. You didn't bring up Cam. We're done with you.
I'm telling you.
We're done with you.
I'm an insane asylum.
That's right. You are. You need to be. I could get a strap jacket for him right now. To answer your question, Bollywood, was that pass interference? No, it was not.
Yeah.
It was a great no call on the part of the officials.
Referees can't allow the game to be dictated on that call. So just let it go.
It was not PI, and I think there's PI on like every play, and I didn't think that was PI.
All right. Let's keep it going. We got another quarterback to discuss, Donovan. We need your take on. The Panthers are in last place in the NFC South and have now lost 6 games after falling to the Chiefs at home yesterday. Cam, is it time to panic?
No need to panic. No need to panic. I think we got a couple key losses from some teams. So, that's our optimism. You look at it, whatever our record is, it's not good. But yet we have a locker room full of winners and a locker room full of guys that's full of fight still. And I know I'm willing to go to battle with those guys and can't wait to Thursday.
All right, let's back this up for everybody who doesn't remember this conversation. Stephen A., you said going into the season that Cam was not a Tier 1 quarterback. I laughed at you. Max also believed that he was a Tier 1 quarterback. But does this prove now, 6 losses, that this guy, that he isn't?
Well, first of all, he's not a Tier 1 quarterback. He's a Tier 2 quarterback. There's no insult to Cam Newton. There's room for improvement. He was absolutely sensational and exceptional last year. You weren't on the show with us at the time, just to rehash what my thought process was. I wasn't taking anything away from Cam Newton and what he did last year. My position was 1 year doesn't make you a Tier 1 quarterback. Tier 1 quarterbacks are individuals that have a level of consistency to attach to their resume. And to me, outside of last year, there was nothing that he did to show that he's a Tier 1 quarterback. So what happens this year? I kept saying, let's see what he does this year. What has transpired this year? They're 3-6 on the year. Cam Newton is not entirely his fault. The offense is decent enough. Cam Newton is completing 58% of his passes. Tom Brady's completing 73% of his passes. You understand? Cam Newton's at 58% of his passes, all right? 58% of his passes. He doesn't even have 2,000 yards passing in 9 games already, okay, 8 on his part. He's got about 10 touchdowns. 7 interceptions, a QBR of 56. The team is losing, and more importantly than that, he's had issues this year where he sort of reminded folks of the petulance that comes associated with them. It is not entirely his fault. To me, it's Dave Gettleman let go of Josh Norman, that defense not being as stout as it once was. There's no question about that. But let's think about this here. Yesterday, they're playing Kansas City. We saw him dab again when they were up 17-0. We saw him feeling himself. But then here comes Kansas City. Kansas City won this game without the offense scoring a touchdown.
Absolutely.
Kansas City won this game, and in part was sparked by an inexplicable interception thrown by Cam Newton and Eric Berry. This is the Cam Newton that we're talking about here. So he's somebody that has the capability to be big time and to get it done for you. But you do find yourself sitting back when you think about opposing him and saying, let me chill and wait. Somehow, some way, he's going to make some mistake somewhere. And that was yesterday.
Cam Newton is a tier 1 quarterback. But the reason he's not perceived that way right now is because Benjamin has the ball ripped away from him. I mean, that's Cam Newton's fault. He completes a pass, and his team loses because the guy gets the ball ripped away from him.
I mentioned an interception.
Yeah, it's not
really.
Yes, okay, fine. But that's the play that leads to them losing the game, a completed pass. The reason you have the perception that you do of Cam Newton right now is because they don't have a defense. They don't have a running game. He's the running game.
Right.
Their receivers run some of the, I don't know how else to say it, laziest looking, like it's just not crisp.
Yeah, their slams are like they're walking inside.
It's unreal. Because we're big, we're always open. No, man, you got to run your So you have no defense, looks like. You don't have a lot of protection. You don't have a run. You're the running game. They actually design running plays for you. Yeah. And your receivers won't run routes. That's why the perception of Cam is as it is. But do a thought experiment. How many teams could you swap out the quarterback, give them Cam, and they get better? Because my contention is a lot of them. Cam, Andrew Luck, and there are others, will be under or overrated depending on the effectiveness of their teammates. But their effectiveness, their value, is always sky high.
I agree with you in a sense. I'm not a fan of ranking quarterbacks, even though obviously being on the show, that's kind of my title to talk where quarterbacks are at this particular point. Cam is different for the things that he's asked to do. They have no running game. Jonathan Stewart hasn't been healthy pretty much since he's been in the NFL, so he is the running game. The passing game, you're asking a lot for a quarterback to do when you're asking them to throw the ball downfield, complete passes intermediately, and also run the read option when you're constantly getting banged in the head. Now, there's something to be said about why Josh Norman is not there. Their defense continued to struggle, not just because of Josh Norman, but it seems to me they're not getting the pressure from the front four. Their linebackers are flowing, but guys are getting on top of them. And so if guys are getting on top of them, that opens up running lanes for opponents to pick up big yards. They're not the same defense because of things like that. Now, offensively, it's easy to point the finger at the quarterback and its numbers because that's the thing that people want to focus on numbers. But Cam is not the same guy because he's dealing with a lot of issues of getting hit upside the head, not getting the calls. He's not having fun. He's fearing for his life. What he did last night, I thought, was one in which he tried to bring a spark to the team, trying to show that he's not allowing that to affect his play. So he goes out and he's dabbing and doing whatever, brings the team together. Well, that interception was one that, as a quarterback, you just can't do. If you get pressure, you got to take it or throw it out of bounds. Led to a touchdown. The same thing with Kelvin Benjamin when he gets stripped. That's not all on Cam. But I think when you wrap up the whole season, I think they're done. As far as panic is concerned, I think they need to worry more than panic because every player on that team, like Ben said, needs to be held accountable for the mistakes that they made. I think their season's over, and Cam just has to continue to ride the ship.
First of all, I believe their season is over. But secondly, I disagree with both of you, in this, especially you, in this regard. When we talk about Cam Newton being a second-tier quarterback, nobody's calling him a scrub. Nobody's saying that Cam Newton can't play. What we're saying is that when you think about the elite in this game, the Drew Brees, the Aaron Rodgers, the Tom Brady's,
both of them are having.
What I'm saying to you is, regardless of what struggles they have a body of work.
True.
Now, when you talk about numbers, you're absolutely right in terms of nitpicking QBR or whatever. But let me tell you what numbers I do pay attention to. You won't dispute this.
Wins and losses.
Wins and losses. Now, Cam Newton is 48-37 as a quarterback, as a starting quarterback. Do y'all know that in 6 seasons in the NFL, this being his 6th, he's only got 2 winning seasons? Two. Now, you can sit there and talk to me until the cows come home. You can sit up there and sing Kumbaya.
Cows almost came home last year. They were in the Super Bowl.
And be so articulate and eloquent in your explanation. At the end of the day, the man has 4 losing seasons in 6 years thus far in his NFL career. And only once has he completed better than 60% of his passes. Now, to me, I'm sorry. When somebody talks about Donovan McNabb, I'm not just thinking about the 33,000 yards plus passing for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm also thinking about all those winning seasons you had and how many times you went to an NFC Championship game. I'm looking at this dude that went to the Super Bowl once. Much credit to him, deserving of league MVP. He is a stud, but in the end, you have losing records. Period.
Real quick, the time for them to panic was going into this game because if they would have won, their season's alive. I think the season's over.
By the way, take out last season. Cam Newton is 33 and 36 as a starting quarterback.
So take out his best season. He's still around 500.
Wilson, Brady, Ben, Cam, Donovan, we love having your perspective on all of this, having the quarterback. It's a difference maker.
Around 500.
Thank you so much. We will see you next week. Could you guys stop talking? We got more to get into. Conor McGregor makes easy work of Eddie Alvarez at MSG on Saturday, and now he says it's time to get his.
They've got to come talk to me now. That's all I know. I've got both belts, a chunk of money, a little family on the way. You want me to stick around? You want me to keep doing what I'm doing? Let's talk. But I want the ownership now. I want equal share. I want what I deserve, what I've earned.
He wants it all. We talk about McGregor's worth to the UFC next, and Zeke Elliott putting on a show in his rookie season. But is it an MVP winning season? Don't miss that discussion coming up here on First Take. He certainly is a star boy.
Hey everyone, this is Rachel Younggu from the ESPN Esports Podcast. Is Overwatch the next big esport? How much has BlizzCon changed over the past few years? We break it all down on this week's podcast. Be sure to tune in.
They've got to come talk to me now, because no one's come talk to me since the sale has happened. As a businessman, I've been approached as hello and that type of stuff, but I've earned something. Who owns the company now? There's people have shares in the company, celebrities. Conan O'Brien owns the UFC nowadays, so where's my share? Where's my equity? If I'm the one that's bringing this, they've got to come talk to me now. That's all I know. I've got both belts, a chunk of money, a little family on the way. You want me to stick around? You want me to keep doing what I'm doing? Let's talk. But I want the ownership now. I want equal share. I want what I deserve, what I've earned.
They got to come to me. The UFC NYC and MSG, let me tell you, it's a match made in heaven. Saturday night was the first UFC fight ever in New York. This crowd was electric. Conor McGregor takes down Eddie Alvarez in the second round. This man has it all. The cocky personality, smart mouth, and most importantly, he's got the skills to back it up. 9-1 in the UFC. But Stephen A., the question is, does the UFC need McGregor, or does McGregor need the UFC more?
It is rare that I would say this, because my rule of thinking in business is that no one individual, no name is bigger than the brand. Mm-hmm. Always understand that no matter who you think you are, no matter how successful you are, it's the brand that ensures your success. The UFC's existence elevates McGregor. It's not the other way around. Having said that, knowing the aspirations of the UFC and how it wants to ingratiate itself in the American sports fabric the way that it has so successfully under the stewardship of Dana White, in order for it to continue to elevate to that level, I think that he's right to some degree. Is McGregor right about the ownership? You need to get tested. Let's not get beside ourselves now. You don't deserve an ownership stake in the UFC. Those who deserve an ownership stake are those who actually take their dollars and share the risk and put their money into the mix. You don't deserve ownership just because you're a star representing the brand and you go out there and you generate money for the sport, which is actually what you're supposed to be doing anyway. Having said that, he does deserve mega pay. He is box office. Max Kellerman, I was there Saturday night. I was there. You understand? And I'm telling you right now, I was ringside. I was sitting with a crew of people who will remain nameless, but trust me, they're the who's who. You know, in this world, as far as I'm concerned, it was special. And I'm telling you right now, when he rolled up in there with 50s, I get money. I mean, it was, I run New York. I mean, Matt.
To come in and say I run New York, and you're from Ireland.
I have been there when Mike Tyson has entered the ring. I have been there when Floyd Money Mayweather has entered the ring. I'm a John Bones Jones fan. I was there when he fought. No, I wasn't there. I didn't show up when he fought. But I just watched that on television. I have not seen too much like McGregor rolling into an arena the way that he did at Madison Square Garden on Saturday night. It was absolutely special and phenomenal. So I'm only saying that to say this last point. I'll defer to your judgment because I know from a pugilistic point you really know this stuff. But this dude is box office. He deserves mega dollars, but not ownership.
And I'm a huge Conor McGregor fan, and I'm usually pro-labor in these instances. Conor McGregor not only talks the talk, he walks the walk. And by walks the walk, I mean he takes risks, even in terms of who he fights. right? And then immediate rematches and a loss to a bigger, stronger guy, and then figures out a way to win, and then wins his
Saturday night. He destroyed Eddie Alvarez.
And then he was so dominant against Alvarez with his striking. And look, so does he deserve a lot of money? Yes. However, the interesting thing about the UFC is Dana White and Zuffa and the UFC, and obviously it's now sold, but they created the marketplace for MMA, at least in this country. It didn't used to exist, and then they created it. And in terms of stars, there used to be Gracie and Shamrock, and then Tito Ortiz and Liddell and Couture and Matt Hughes and ESPN.
It didn't sell like this.
But it kept getting bigger and bigger.
And Anderson Silva.
John Bones Jones. Of course, Brock Lesnar, and then Ronda Rousey very recently. And now we have Conor McGregor. The point is, the UFC there will always be more stars. I'm not saying Conor McGregor isn't unique. He is. He's enormous. He's their biggest star ever. But the UFC is less dependent on stars than, say, boxing. Because boxing is a bunch of independent contractors who hope that someone can come along and capture the public's imagination. The UFC is more like the NFL or MLB or the NBA. When someone says, hey, you know what they should do in boxing? There's no they. There's no one organization perceived as more legitimate than all the others in boxing that can plot out a future. There is a they in MMA. It's called the UFC. It's like Band-Aid means bandage. It's a name brand that's so powerful it actually means the product itself. You don't say MMA, you say UFC. Dana White did that. And so he, having created the marketplace in order for Conor McGregor to be in the position that he makes the money that he does. And the fact that they are less dependent on those kind of personalities than boxing, they've had so many and it just continues to grow, makes me say, while I hope Conor McGregor gets all the money in the world, asking for an ownership stake is probably far-fetched.
I will say this, though. He does make a point by saying, I want my share. It doesn't have to be ownership. But what it does have to be is the UFC recognizing this dude is one of a kind. Dana White is on the record. I've never seen anything like him. WME IMG paid $4.2 million. $4.2 billion to own this product. So the point is that if they want a return on their investment, you got to take care of this dude because he's the kind of dude that will walk away. You know who he is to me, Max? He's a combination of Mike Tyson and Floyd Money Mayweather.
Here's another thing, though.
Yeah. That's what he's a combination of. Not
UFC.
On that level as of yet because it's UFC instead of boxing, but he's a combo.
Keep in mind about the UFC, there are no soft touches. They're all world-class fighters. And it's a sport where, if you're watching a fight, not everyone has one-punch power in boxing. But because of submission holds, etc., everyone's a de facto one-punch knockout artist in the UFC. And since you're always fighting a good fighter, I don't care who you are, you're going to lose. Conor McGregor already did recently barely avenge the defeat. And if you saw Nurmagomedov on the undercard, I don't know that Conor McGregor beats Nurmagomedov. I might make Nurmagomedov the favorite. That dude is dominant. The interesting thing about that fight, by the way, is that Nurmagomedov was hurt by a strike early in the fight. And what Conor McGregor can do, he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist who can strike with his hands. But I wonder who would be the favorite in that fight.
Let me say this to you.
And they're in the same division.
Let me say this to you. I'm sitting ringside. And I saw Conor McGregor connect on 3 punches in the first round. All 3 punches dropped Alvarez.
Yep, he can punch.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Alvarez...
He couldn't take him down. If he took him down, it could have been a little dangerous.
That's right, but he couldn't. But here's the thing that I found so interesting. Eddie Alvarez walked into the ring. Shorter, yes, but looking bigger. By the time the second round arrived, he looked smaller. Yep. He looked bigger before the fight started and then looked smaller once he got hit. It's like his body shrunk for crying out.
The same thing could happen to Nurmagomedov. Conor McGregor is a really talented guy. I'm just saying, I suspect that Nurmagomedov is the favorite in that fight.
Fine.
They're in the same division, and that's a fight that's got to happen before too long.
Let me say this to you. This is the determination that I have reached about Conor McGregor because I've seen him get hit and I've seen him be able to take a punch. You have to be Nate Diaz type in terms of your ability to take a punch to beat Conor McGregor.
Or you got to get him on the ground fast.
What I'm saying is, if Conor McGregor hits you and you can't take a punch, I don't give a damn what else you could do. It's over.
You know what he has as a striker, by the way, from a boxing point of view, what McGregor has as a striker, because in the MMA, in the UFC, you got to be a jack of all trades, a master of one. Maybe you could master one and just be competent in other areas. As a striker with his hands, he not only has power, but he's really accurate with his power punches. So he's dangerous for anybody. There's no question about it.
And guys are scared of him.
Yeah.
Guys are scared of him. I mean, the minute Eddie got hit by him, you could see Eddie was scared.
Oh, he had hands behind the back.
I'm saying for all of that.
That's a Roy Jones move.
The second he got, we saw what eventually happened to Roy. The point is, when he got hit, he was scared after that. This is the kind of stuff that Conor McGregor is doing to people. He is scaring you to death. You're scared.
What eventually happened to Roy is he got old. When he was in his prime,
I got to cover the UFC for 6 years, be at all the fights, but being in New York, something special. I missed it for sure. 206 and 205 206, 207 are going to be good cards too coming up, Toronto and Vegas. But coming up next, should Zeke Elliott be the MVP favorite? You all voted at home and will not want to miss these guys' reaction to the results. And it's the time to officially hit the panic button with that bad man.
Minnesota lost again. We're a game back. We're kind of right where we were last week. Obviously, love to be standing up here and after a win, but right now we got to work on ourselves and get this thing turned around.
Don't miss your chance to enter the First Take Your Take viewer contest. You can win a chance to debate Stephen A. and Max right here on national television. All you have to do is go to firsttakeyourtake.com, upload a 1-minute video with your best original sports debate. Keep it clean. 2 winners will be selected by our show staff. So get busy. We could see you at the debate desk taking on the fellas. Here's a few of the latest.
Now, I'd like to address the topic that you all discussed earlier pertaining to Mr. Dak Prescott. Tell me why he can't win MVP. The run game and the passing game are both inseparable. Ezekiel Elliott doesn't get lit if Dak Prescott is not already on fire.
League's MVP as of right now, I have Matt Ryan over Derek Carr and Tom Brady. I think it's pretty impressive to beat the defending Super Bowl champ and the NFC champs in back-to-back weeks. They lost on the technicality in Seattle, but then they came home and beat your Green Bay Packers.
The Ravens, the just win baby mentality. They are a force to be reckoned with. The black hole is back. Derek Carr is my MVP this season.
All right.
I love the young lady sassiness.
She was great.
She was energetic. The other dude looked swole, like he on steroids, like he was on steroids or something. I don't know about that, but he was good. He was good. They were all good.
You know it when you see it. When someone's feeling it, she was feeling it, you can see it.
Had the it factor?
I liked her.
All right.
She had the it factor. She did.
You know who else has the it factor? Ezekiel Elliott. I think it's safe to say the Cowboys are feeling pretty good about their 4th overall pick. Over 1,000 rushing yards through 9 games, 3 TDs, including the game winner in Pittsburgh Sunday, 8 straight wins. Ezekiel Elliott is taking the league by storm, and he's just a rookie. We asked you earlier in the show, should Zeke be the MVP favorite? The results are in. 59% say yes. Ryan, how we doing? Good to see you.
Good. How are you guys?
We are fantastic.
I know my man over here. I know you're not feeling good today. I want to apologize on behalf of the organization. We as the Pittsburgh Steelers understand the love you have for us and the hatred you have for the Dallas Cowboys. So I know it was tough for you to get up this morning.
It's going to be hard
but I really like your outfit.
It's going to be hard. I appreciate that. It's going to be hard for me. I don't even want to talk to the Steelers right now.
All right. Let's talk about another subject that you love, how well the Cowboys are doing. Should Zeke be the favorite to win NFL MVP?
In the interest of fairness, I must confess, yes. As of right now. When you consider the season that the Cowboys are having, combined with the way that he's been running the football since week 2, he's averaging 5.1 yards per carry overall. He's on course to eclipse the rookie rushing record of 1,800-plus yards. This massive offensive line. I mean, I'm so disgusted because I've got mixed emotions because obviously he's a Cowboy, but I got love for him, and I'm proud of the job that he's doing. I look at that offensive line and the holes they're creating for him. I'm looking at 3 touchdown runs that he had yesterday. Steelers didn't even touch him. I mean, he wasn't even touched. He wasn't even touched. A matter of fact, 82 of his 114 yards rushing was before contact. I mean, that's just embarrassing. Oh, my God. I digress. I'm sorry. I'm just so disgusted with the Steelers right now. Having said that, Ezekiel Elliott has been doing damage against a lot of people. Dak Prescott deserves a lot of credit. I get all of that. But you got to wonder, even though I believe Dak Prescott would still be good, you got to wonder how good he would be if you didn't have the running game that he has at his disposal. Of course, I'm thinking Tom Brady, ultimately, the Russell Wilsons of the world deserve consideration. But right now, the way the Dallas Cowboys are rolling, the only people that you can give credit to more than Ezekiel Elliott is the offensive line.
That's the point, though. Who was better, Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders?
Barry Sanders.
No one thinks Emmitt Smith. I mean, sorry. And at the time, no one thought Emmitt Smith. But he was running behind an all-time great offensive line. Ezekiel Elliott, let me just say for the record, Cowboys fans, because I thought he would be a good pro. And early on in the season, I said, I don't know. He doesn't look that fast, but he didn't look fast east-west. Boy, he got some north-south speed, like in a straight line. Forget it. And he's patient and smart and has a next gear when he needs it that results in these huge gains. But to your point, Stephen A., on his touchdowns this season, he's gone 101 yards. Yards before contact, 81. 3.9 yards per rush before first contact yesterday. What that mean? No, sorry, they didn't touch him yesterday. He was not contacted on those situations yesterday. So how is he an excellent player? Yes, he is. But he's not better than Todd Gurley. I mean, Todd Gurley is facing stacked boxes. He has no quarterback. He does not have the same offensive line, etc. But he looks better than Todd Gurley now.
Well, here's the thing, though. That's not how MVP is won, though, right? It's not necessarily like, is he the best running back? MVP is based on what you do during that year, and a lot of times how well your team plays because of what you've done. Which is why Derek Carr, right now, for me, is the lead candidate for the MVP. The way that he's brought that team back at the end of games, the clutch throws, whether it be New Orleans, whether it be Tampa Bay, overtime, he's the guy driving that train right now, directing and conducting that train to have them 7-2 atop the AFC West, which is the toughest conference in the NFL. But to Ezekiel Elliott, if there was MVP voting on the team, he'd be third. First would be guys by the name of Free, Martin, Frederick, Leary, Smith. They're the MVPs of that team. And they can win it, actually, because players can stand for players. There's no rule. The P can stand for players, not player. Right? Dak Prescott is a leading candidate for the MVP over Ezekiel Elliott. As the league goes, he's number 2 for me. Because think about last year without Tony Romo. Castle, Whedon, Moore. They were awful. That's the reason we said they had to get a quarterback. But you look at this team now, the drive to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, that's not Ezekiel Elliott, right? That wasn't Ezekiel Elliott making plays. That was Dak Prescott having the presence, having the poise to bring them back. So when you look at this team in general,
he's number 3 on the team. One thing real quick, I know Matt Ryan wasn't great in the second half last year, but over the course of this entire season, if you're actually talking about value for a player, I would say it's still Matt Ryan. He was making throws in the first half of that game that only a handful of quarterbacks, period, can make. I know he's throwing it to Julio Jones early on, but still, when you look at what Matt Ryan's done this year, one mediocre second half and a loss, to me, does not throw away the work he's done. I would still say he should be the MVP.
Let me disagree with you. First of all, Emmitt Smith not only won a league MVP, he won a Super Bowl MVP. We knew he was behind that offensive line. It didn't stop him from getting those rewards. That's number one. Number two, we know we're not going to give it to the offensive line. I mean, we say they deserve it, and we know they do, but they ain't getting the damn award, okay? So let's be realistic. We ain't got to has there been
I'm not saying a team MVP?
Has there been an offensive line that got a league MVP?
No.
Then stop it, because you know it's not going to happen. So don't bring unrealistic stuff into the equation.
Why can't I? You bring unrealistic stuff all the time.
Not at all.
Words.
Stats. Him. That's him. Him and
no, I
got nothing on him.
Pristine
you're wrong right there.
And unique
You're wrong right there. Listen, okay, whatever.
Stats, that's
whatever. The point that I'm trying to make to you, well, not only do I bring the words and all the stats, but I'm also showing up to games, so I'm reporting. But that's neither here nor there.
And the charisma, by the way.
Absolutely.
I mentioned my charisma.
Always the charisma. That would be mine, not yours.
The
point is this. Hold on. The other thing is this. Dak Prescott. I'm not trying to take anything away from that young brother. Not at all. But because he's a 4th-round pick and because he's a rookie, I'm wondering how much does the offensive line beating folks up, along with Ezekiel Elliott, who we all recognize talk about Mars attacks. That big head of his, it's news if that dude gets a concussion. It's news if that dude gets a concussion. I know he can give them, but I don't know if I've ever seen. I don't know if the last running back I ever saw with a head that size was O.J. Simpson. That's the last time. Sorry to bring him up because obviously the two don't compare. But the point that I'm trying to make to you, the size of that head of his.
A big noggin.
What a massive, massive head. And so, listen, if he gets a concussion.
So he gets to win the MVP because his head's big?
He's running the football well. He's imposing, he's inflicting punishment. Okay, all of those things play a role. He's producing numbers-wise, producing wins-wise, and he's distributing
the weight
punishment.
of that head, he's so fast.
And distributing punishment.
He's leaning forward.
Oh, that's a good point.
He's leaning forward. People.
So DeMarco Murray.
I think you would duck from him. I really do. I really do.
Whatever.
That head.
DeMarco Murray, right, wins the rushing title 2 years ago.
Right.
Darren McFadden, who can play, but who's a candle, right? One blow and he's out. He rushes for over 1,000 yards behind this same line.
I agree with you.
Right? So can you imagine the pressure, not only being the Dallas Cowboy starting quarterback, right, but being on a team where Tony Romo sits and watches every game?
I don't think
knowing that when he comes back,
totally agree. Dak to me is ahead of Ezekiel Elliott on that team. I agree with your order. Offensive line 1, Dak 2.
I don't believe about that much pressure about Zach though, because I think he was playing with house money.
I want to say one thing about DeMarco Murray.
Sure.
DeMarco Murray is a B+ running back at least. But behind that Dallas Cowboys line, he looked like an A+. Zeke is an A running back running behind an A++ line.
Yeah,
so
great.
he looks
it's great
all
for Dallas.
world.
It's great for those Cowboys.
They'll still lose.
All right.
They're going to Super Bowl.
Someone else who's losing. That bad man, Stephen A. He's been pretty bad. What is the deal? So it's officially time to panic in Green Bay. Don't miss those excuses coming up next. And after waffling on Dak and Romo, Jerry Jones finally has his plan set for Big D's QB situation.
Yeah, today was definitely a winnable game. We just didn't execute as well enough as we wanted to on offense, and obviously in the other two phases as well. But Minnesota lost again. We're a game back. We're kind of right where we were last week. We obviously love to be standing up here and after a win, but right now we got to work on ourselves and get this thing turned around.
Packers have now lost 3 games in a row and are below 500 this late in the season for the first time since 2008, and it has Green Bay searching for answers. Ryan Clark still here with us. Stephen A., is Rodgers losing his team?
I don't believe he is. I believe Mike McCarthy and Ted Thompson have lost this team because they don't have a defense. It's similar to what the Steelers are suffering from for the most part. Throughout the years when we've seen the greatness of Aaron Rodgers, and clearly we haven't seen enough of that this year. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not completely absolving him. But when we've looked at the Green Bay Packers, we've seen Rodgers as the guy that was so great, he's going to come to the rescue. Green Bay's defense bent and bent and bent all the time. It was rare that they were considered elite. Clay Matthews may have been elite in terms of getting to the passer, but overall as a defense, Clay Matthews, Sam Shields would do their job. But collectively, we looked at them and we didn't see greatness. And this year, they're awful. Now, obviously, injuries play a role. There's no doubt about that, and we understand that. And Eddie Lacy and his ankle injury inhibiting their offense to some degree, we've seen that. Aaron Rodgers go 31 for 51 for 375 yards yesterday, 371 yards yesterday with 2 TDs but 2 interceptions. But to me, 21-0 in the first quarter to the Tennessee Titans, ultimately losing to Marcus Mariota, ultimately giving up 35 points in the first half. And this is in the aftermath of Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy saying the things that they've said. I'm looking at McCarthy. Do I think he deserves to be fired? No, he's been in the playoffs every year. The man's a credible coach. But I did ask the question last week, Ryan, to Max and Molly. I said, even though you're making the playoffs every year, damn, you got the greatest one of the greatest quarterbacks of this generation. Somebody that was arguably recognized as the best coming into this season, even after last year struggling. And you got 1 Super Bowl appearance and nothing else. And I'm just saying to myself, Mike McCarthy and this defense, damn, Ted Thompson, the general manager, and this defense, who believes in building through the draft. What is going on? It is time to ask these questions because I think Green Bay's in a world of trouble.
Real quick, if you give up 21 first quarter points, you're probably going to lose the game. And Aaron Rodgers can't play defense. It's as simple as that. And then when he starts to make a little bit of an attempt at a comeback and the defense keeps leaking, you're going to lose. Not Aaron Rodgers' fault. They're not playing defense. That's it.
That's it. You're done?
I'm done.
That was quick. Well, here's the reason why they aren't playing defense, right? Sam Shields on IR. Clay Matthews has been hurt. Randall has groin surgery, who was the second cornerback. Dom Capers' team is built on a fire zone scheme, which means they bring 5 players and play basically a matchup zone on the back end. You need corners that can cover. They don't have the guns. And so now if Dom Capers doesn't switch his mindset and say, okay, we're going to protect these people, you're going to have some games where you give up points. That's part of it. And to your point, Stephen A., when Aaron Rodgers got to the Super Bowl, it was Nick Collins, who's one of the more underrated safeties that's played in this generation, had to retire because of a neck injury. Tramon Williams, Charles Woodson. The horses. Clay Matt, they had the horses. And it wasn't because Aaron Rodgers was so great. That was a top 5 defense. So the Patriots and now maybe Seattle, they've got us all confused, right? For Stephen A. to say, and you only have 1 Super Bowl appearance, do you know how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl? Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily you can knock them for only winning 1 in his 10-year, now 11-year tenure. It's tough to get there.
Can I respond to that?
Definitely.
1-1.
Last 3 years, Green Bay has ranked like 22 or worse against the run. This year, obviously, they're having problems due to the injuries in their secondary against the pass. But here's why I bring that up. I in no way mean any kind of disrespect to players, former or current, in that regard. I understand that it's the ultimate team game and it's very, very difficult. But you know what's even harder than playing in the NFL? As somebody that never played, I'm going to speculate here, finding an elite quarterback.
I agree with that.
And so my point is that the Ryan Clarks of the world, and the Damian Woodies, and the Mark Schlerets, and the Merrill Hodges, and the NFL aficionados that surround us on this campus and in this building. Because regardless of the reporter, the extraordinary reporter I've been over the last 2 decades, by the way, regardless of all of that. Regardless of
Molly, sometimes if you don't, Molly, sometimes if you don't toot your own horn, there's no music.
There we go. That's what I'm saying. Hey, that's the way it goes. Listen, pounding that pavement, being that beat writer for damn near 20 years. Hell yeah, I'm going to add some credit to myself. Here's the deal. I listen to guys who know. And y'all can't have it both ways. You can't talk about how difficult it is to accomplish X, Y, and Z on an NFL level collectively. But then in the same breath, talk about how paramount and how pivotal it is to have that quarterback. If I have Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback and I'm an owner, I'm looking at Mike McCarthy and I'm like, yo, man, what's up? What? This all I got?
You'd like to get a little bit more done with Aaron Rodgers as quarterback. I want to make one point.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree with that. It's not like they're way underachieving, but you'd like a little more with that guy as your QB.
Get conference championship a few of them.
A part of rooting for teams is rooting for laundry. You know, like the Pittsburgh Steelers' reputation is defense. Same thing with the New York Giants. Northeastern, family-owned, Rooney's, Maras, the whole thing. The bottom line is, at the moment, they have teams that are constructed more offensively, at least in recent years. It wasn't the LT Giants or the Giants that beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. It was a pass-happy offense without a lot of pass rushers for the Giants. Same thing with the Steelers. Run the ball, stop the run. No, they turned into a defense that couldn't cover the pass, couldn't stop the run, but, man, they could score a lot of points. And the branding of those teams has us thinking about them differently from what they really are. I give credit to coaches like Tomlin, like McCarthy, like whomever, who can take what they got and say, forget about the branding of this team and the laundry for a second. They're in this uniform. How do I win this game? How do I win this game this week? Offense or defense, come what may. And that's what's happening in Green Bay. That's what's happening in Pittsburgh. I know it's off-brand, but they're just trying to win with what they got.
No, that's how it has to work. That's how you have to adapt. You have to adjust, whether it's rules or people. You have to figure out how to put a competitive team on the field. The one thing I will say about Aaron Rodgers is, you follow him because of his play. When Aaron Rodgers plays really well, you can follow him. Mm-hmm. He's not going to lead you by what he says, about the way he presents himself. Because every time he talks in the post-game interviews, I want to throw up.
Yeah, he doesn't exude confidence and passion.
Why do you want to throw up?
Confidence, yes, but not passion.
Because I feel
that's strong. Why do you want to throw up?
Because I feel there is an arrogance when he speaks, that the cloud, like remember Pigpen had the little cloud that floated around? The cloud says, it's not me.
All right, I got it. But I'm going to throw this to you to end this segment. I'm going to throw this to him to end this segment because I hear Ryan talking. I am.
Whack
Ryan, I got a question. got a question. Because he is a bad man.
Yeah.
If you were playing and Aaron Rodgers was your quarterback, what would your expectations be as it pertains to results?
I would expect to win games.
It's all a brother.
But you don't need to talk about it in the press conference.
No, that's what I'm saying. We can sit there and talk about nitpick and go, you don't need to do this.
We have to be able to
This won't be the end of this
because if Cam did it,
When it's
we'd be
Cam,
nitpicking
thank you.
that.
We
Cam
get on
ain't him.
Cam.
I said it.
All right,
Seattle.
we got to go.
I said
we
it.
could have
Seattle.
done a whole topic on this. Ryan, thank
Seattle.
you so much for being
I
on.
love Cam. He ain't Aaron Rodgers.
Thank you for making sense. Coming
Seattle.
up,
Please.
Romo
You got a lot of
will be
nerve.
back-
You must be
back
crazy.
up next
That's what I'm
week.
saying.
But
Gotta tell
how
people.
much longer will Romo have with that job in Dallas? Find out that answer after the break.
College football lives here. After a chaotic weekend in college football, Louisville's playoff hopes are alive and well.
Touchdown, Louisville!
Up next, they face a dangerous Houston Cougar team on the road.
47 yards right up the middle. Hello, Heisman Trophy.
Coverage begins Thursday at 7 Eastern on ESPN and on ESPN Radio. Presented by Dr. Pepper.
Well, I think that the longer he plays like this, the more we have a chance to have another win. And everybody here wants to do only really one thing, is win.
Tony looked excited when you talked to him.
Well, he's genuinely excited. There's nobody happier for our success because it's his success.
Do you foresee him being active as a backup next week?
I do. He's ready.
He's ready to go?
He's ready.
Oh, Jerry. He says Tony Romo will be the backup next week. And before the game, Adam Schefter predicted that 2016 likely will be Romo's last season with the Cowboys. Schefter has listed the Bears, Jets, and Broncos as potential fits. If Romo isn't with the Cowboys next year, where would you like him to go, Max?
Well, I am a Giants fan.
Really?
Which means in New York, people don't get this. If you're a Giants fan, you have to hate the Jets. You like both. No. If you're a Yankees fan, you have to hate the Mets. And now that the Nets are playing in Brooklyn, I suppose if you're a Knicks fan, you have to hate the Nets. The Nets were really never thought much of in the New York area. So I'm anti-Jet.
Okay.
So I want to see Romo go to the Jets. Not because Romo's not a fantastic quarterback when he's healthy, not because the Jets couldn't use him. On paper, it works out, and they could be a very good team. The problem is Romo will never be healthy for a whole season. That's not going to happen. And it's no news that this is going to be the last. Adam Schefter breaks great news all the time. But this is not news to people following the situation in the sense that $54 million cap hit means you cannot trade him this season. It also means if you can cut him at the end of the season, I think June 1st, you cut him and you save $54 million over 3 years and you have a quarterback, that means he will certainly be cut after this season. So he's their backup, which is a great safety plan for the Cowboys this year. And then he's heading somewhere else. And I hope it's to a team like the Jets because it will undermine their fortunes in the long run because given his back condition and the fact that he can't make it through a full season, if you game plan your season around him, you will be disappointed due to his health, not his talent.
Well, I'm known as the Cowboy hater per se. I mean, it's really not them. It's really not them. It's their fan base, which I think is the most despicable, disgusting, nauseating fan base in American history. I can't stand them. It's not so much the Cowboys, it's their fans. But I will say this. With that in mind, Max Kellerman, I'm going to say that you're being quite cruel to Tony Romo. And I would dare say I don't think Tony Romo deserves that. I mean, after all, in New York City, what do you have? You have a franchise that has been moribund for quite some time. Todd Bowles tried to get them steered in the right direction. Last year was a decent season before they collapsed in that last game against Buffalo. And then they come back this year and they wet the bed and they're undisciplined. And now, the coach could potentially be in a hot seat going into next season because of the lack of discipline and focus they've displayed this year in New York. I don't wish that on a 36-year-old Tony Romo that's had about 3 or 4 back injuries over the last several years. A matter of fact, I want Cowboy Nation to know that I'm thinking about Tony Romo and his future health and and what's beneficial to him in his life. His lovely wife, his new family, all of that other stuff. I want to be thoughtful towards Tony Romo. So rather than wish the Jets upon him, I would say the Denver Broncos. Because last time I checked, Demaryius Thomas ain't going nowhere. Emmanuel Sanders ain't going nowhere. C.J. Anderson had an opportunity to go to Miami, but John Elway matched that offer and kept him in Denver. Okay, the offensive line is anticipated to be better. Kubiak is a Super Bowl champion coach. John Elway is a Super Bowl champion executive and former quarterback. And by the way, an executive that has experience picking a quarterback with back injuries from the past and ultimately doing what you can to protect him, to ultimately elevate him to the Super Bowl stratosphere. There is a history there, a record there, where John Elway and the Denver Broncos have been proven to be a beneficial landing spot for a guy, which is why I would wish such a thoughtful thing on Tony Romo. And you, Mac, you should be ashamed of yourself for throwing Tony Romo to the wolves that are in New York. I don't say that Tony Romo deserves that.
Let me tell you why. Because the Jets are an accident waiting to happen. Stephen, I don't know if you ever heard that expression before.
Yesterday was rough.
Look, no, it's nothing against Romo. Romo on the Jets, he would make them an excellent team while he was healthy. He wouldn't stay healthy. On the Broncos, if Tony Romo could somehow just get healthy for the postseason, for the playoffs, the Broncos would win the Super Bowl with him. If you put a quarterback of that quality on that team's going to win the Super Bowl. But what are the odds? He's going to have to get healthy just in time for the playoffs, and in the meantime, Simeon, whoever else is going to have to get them there. He can't stay healthy. Why is this so alien to people? It's obvious. He has a degenerative back condition. It's not going to get any better. When he's on the field, he is excellent. He can't stay on the field.
The Jets are too busy trying to find a quarterback, whether it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, whether it's Bryce Petty or whomever. They're too busy trying to find Geno Smith when he comes back from his injury, even though he'll probably be gone. These are the kind of things that you're stuck with. Whereas in Denver, Trevor Siemian has done enough. Where if Tony Romo was there and he was a backup, you'd still be in a good situation if you're the Denver Broncos. So you can afford to have cover for Tony Romo in the event that he goes down. But if he's able to stay up, his experience, even though he's only got 2 playoff victories in his career, which is nothing to brag about, as we all know. Some people have elocuted that on this very show. I will say no names. My point to you is that it's a better situation for him in Denver than it is here, and that is the situation.
All right, let's talk a little college football on that note. Alabama is cruising while the other top teams in college football are faltering. So the question is, does it matter who the 3 teams are in the playoff, or are the Tide a lock for the title? Find out that next. For the second time in history of the AP poll, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th ranked teams all lost on the same day. Washington lost for the first time this season, losing 26-13 to USC. Michigan also knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten when Iowa's Keith Duncan hit a 33-yard field goal as time expired. Clemson was upset by Pitt when Chris Blewett hit the game-winning 48-yard field goal with 6 seconds left. And Alabama was the only team in the top 4 to survive, blowing out Mississippi 51-3. Now, because of the wild day, there was a major shakeup in the AP poll here, folks. Alabama remains at number 1, followed by Ohio State, Louisville, Michigan, and Clemson in the top 5. So, Stephen A., the question is, does it matter who the other 3 teams are in the college football playoff when it's unveiled tomorrow night, or is it all about your Roll Tide, baby?
Well, absolutely. Roll Tide. I mean, it ain't about nothing to me. I said at the beginning of the season that Alabama will run the table, and I meant it. One of my boys, a couple of people. First of all, you got people calling up to my radio show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, every weekday from 1 to 3 p.m. every day, Channel 82. You got people calling up to my radio show. Got one of my boys.
What channel?
Channel 82.
And what's the time?
Mad Dog Sports Radio.
What time?
1 to 3 p.m.
I can hear Stephen A. Smith 1 to 3 p.m. on Mad Dog Radio, Channel 82 every day?
Every day.
Just check.
Every day. Eastern Standard Time. My boy Champ is another dude that calls up all the time to rave about how somebody's going to knock off Alabama. He ain't been right yet this year, okay? You know, he talked about Tennessee, talked about Texas A&M. He told, don't shout him out. He doesn't deserve, Champ doesn't deserve to be shouted out because he's been wrong on college football, even though he's usually right about a lot of other things, because I got love for him. But here's the deal. The reality of the situation is clear. It's about Roll Tide, baby. It's them and everybody else. I tried to educate this with Max about this a long, long time ago. Clemson, you know, you lose to Pittsburgh, okay? That's a big-time problem, all right? There's no doubt about that. But my 4 would be Alabama, Clemson, Louisville, because the Louisville almost beat Clemson, and I want to see Lamar Jackson, and then the winner eventually of that season finale between Ohio State and Michigan. Washington, I was raving about them for the last few weeks, saying they deserve to be in the top 4. What I didn't know is that they would get punked on their own home turf by USC. They didn't just lose. They lost. They got beat up. USC beat them fair and square, handily, no last-minute heroics, histrionics, anything. They took them out. And so when I look at that, I say to myself, USC, Helton, he's got them going in the right direction. Give love where it's due. Washington is out of the mix. Texas A&M, you can assume, but they lost so lopsidedly to Alabama. I don't know about that, but I'm thinking about Clemson. I'm thinking about Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and I'm thinking about the winner of Michigan, Ohio State, because Penn State ain't going in there. I don't give a damn that they beat Ohio State. I'm not putting Penn State in there.
Alabama against the field is looking pretty good. You took also the Cubs against the field to give you credit. I always like the field against the best team until the best team is down to playing one other team. When the field becomes one, then the best team should win. We're not there yet. Alabama is the Patriots or the Spurs of college football on steroids, because it's a little easier for the most dominant coach in college, I think, to control the quality of the program.
Which is why you should know to agree with me.
However, football's still luck dependent, largely, which is why what Saban's doing is so impressive. Let's get to the 14th. Let's get to the 14th. No, I'm saying that will influence the outcome of a football game more than, say, a basketball game.
Okay.
Let's get to the 14th. Alabama, obviously. Louisville, yes. And then it can't be Michigan, Ohio State, because they play each other at the end of the year, and the two-loss team ain't getting in. So the winner of Michigan, Ohio State at the end of the year.
That's what I said.
So who's the fourth team? Look, Washington loses to a red-hot USC team that's very talented. Fine, that's a bad loss for them. However, as someone who just lived on the West Coast for 5.5 years, I can tell you, because of the late start, the late Saturday games, media titans like Stephen A. Smith don't get to see those games to the extent that they get to see the East Coast games. There's an East Coast bias baked in that has nothing to do with liking the teams that you're nearer more. It's just you see them more. The clocks are such that you don't see the late games as much. So they get slept on. But part of a playoff system is that, like in the old days, the World Series in baseball, the NL and the AL never play each other. So in the World Series, you actually get to see the two divisions compete. And I think that there's something to that here. Why not? Just because it's a Pac-12 team, let's have one representative from the West Coast, if they win out, of course. If they win out and they wind up with one loss to a talented, storied program, right, that was coming on at the time, I don't think that loss is bad enough to keep the only representative from the Pac-12 out of a playoff system.
Clemson lost on a last-second play to Pittsburgh, even though that's a bad loss because Pittsburgh's got 4 losses on the year. Louisville lost in a thriller to Clemson. All right? Washington got beat up by USC. Beat up. And then when we look at USC's schedule, let's look at this for a second, Max. All right, you got annihilated by Alabama to open the season. You beat Utah State. You lost to Stanford, and you lost to Utah. So your three of your first 4 games were against the number 1, the number 7th, and the number 24th ranked team. Ever since then, the only ranked team you played was Colorado, who you squeezed by 21-17. And then, you run over Washington. To me, that's a bad loss for Washington. That's a more devastating loss for Washington than it was for Clemson or Michigan, all right, or Ohio State or Louisville. And the fact that that is the reality is why my 4 is Alabama, Clemson, Louisville, and the winner of Ohio State, Michigan.
If you're asking who's better, Washington or Clemson?
No, I'm talking about who I want in the Final 4.
I would say Clemson's the better team. I'm saying if it comes to splitting hairs, because you're right about that, although a lot of their losses are early, Washington, and that's the nature of football. The team changes identity sort of over the course of a season. I'm just saying if it comes to splitting hairs, let's take a Pac-12 team.
Yeah, but you lose 3 or 4 early. Damn it, that's 3 or 4.
Okay, we're going to go to break. How about tonight, fellas? 2 of the game's best receivers face off on Monday Night Football. So is tonight a must-win for Odell Beckham and the Giants against A.J. Green and the Bengals? That discussion next. Don't miss your chance to enter the First Take Your Take viewer contest. You can win a chance to debate Stephen A. and Max right here on national television. All you have to do is go to firsttakeyourtake.com, upload a 1-minute video with your best original sports debate. Keep it clean. 2 winners will be selected by our show staff, so get to work, people. I want to see you here in Bristol. Here's a few of our latest submissions.
Dwayne Wade did make a mistake leaving the Miami Heat for the Chicago Bulls. Have you seen the Chicago Bulls? There's a team that just got rid of Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah. They're in complete, absolute rebuilding mode. And you're going to take the iconic iconic Dwayne Wade and parade him around unceremoniously in his last few years of greatness?
Stephen A., I heard you say you would pick the Heat over the Cavs if Dwayne Wade had stayed, if Chris Bosh was healthy, and if Kevin Durant had chosen the Heat over Golden State. Come on now, you know Big House Games couldn't even make that work. The enthusiasm and the greatness is in Cleveland. I'm going with LeBron James. He's my pick, Stephen A.
Are the Lakers better without Kobe? Yes, much better. And they lost a lot of games letting Kobe shoot 30, 35 shots. Let's not pretend like he was good last year. Let's not pretend like he was useful.
I liked all those.
They were all good, but Brianna throwing in my former legendary coach touched me. Brianna got me there. She brought up my coach.
She did. And she was in a stadium.
Kobe was very useful last year because they kept their top 3 protected pick. So that was very useful of Kobe. Okay.
Brianna stole it, though.
And now you want to talk about Kobe's usual. You want to be nicer at this moment, huh? You've been disrespecting him for the last year.
Just mentioned that he made them so bad they kept their pick.
Can we talk about Monday Night Football? We cool? We good? All right. The Giants taking a 3-game winning streak into Monday Night Football tonight against a struggling Bengals team. With a win, New York will remain 2 games behind the Cowboys. A loss would drop them to 3rd place in the NFC East and 3 games back in the division. Stephen A., must win for those G-men?
I kind of think it is. Simply because of everyone in the NFC East winning yesterday. Redskins winning, which I predicted. Eagles winning. And the Cowboys winning, of course, which still makes me sick. But the thing about it is that if you're the Giants, no one in the NFC East has gone anywhere. And it just seems to be the kind of year, which is typical of the NFC East. When you lose at this time of year, it tends to be indicative of what's going to happen to you the rest of the way. Record-wise, no. But I think performance-wise, psychologically, I look at the Giants needing to understand you got to win a game like this because the last thing the Eagles and the Redskins need on the come up is more momentum. You don't want to provide that to them.
They could easily lose this game, and it's not a must-win game. The Bengals are a pretty good NFL team. They're not having a great year, but they're the kind of team that can beat any other team any given Sunday, or in this case Monday. The Giants don't need to win this game because if you look at the way it's shaken out, we thought that the NFC East was so weak that you'd have to win the division to get to the playoffs. As it turns out, it's so strong. Look at their out of division records in the NFC East. They're whooping up on the rest of the NFC. That it's likely that at least one wild card comes from the NFC East. Here's how it is a must-win game. The Giants can still win this division. They need to pick up one game on the Cowboys
and then beat
them. And then if they beat the Cowboys, they got both games against the Cowboys and a better record. All they got to do, or the same record, all they got to do is pick up one game on the Cowboys before Week 13, and they can still win the division. So win the division must win? Yes. Make the playoffs? No.
Here's my biggest problem with what you said. You said the Bengals are a good team.
Yeah.
They're not a good team.
They're okay.
Let me finish. They're not a good team. They're a team with good players. There's a difference. They're dysfunctional. They're a roller coaster ride. They're Six Flags, baby. That's what you should call them, Six Flags. The Six Flags Bengals. That's who they are because they're that dysfunctional. You can't rely on them. You can't trust them at all. I can trust A.J. Green. I can trust Hill ball.
They're going to play tough tonight,
ball.
What I mean is they're a typical
Jeremy Hill will ball. Andy Dalton's balling.
They're a typical 8-8-ish NFL team, and so are the Giants, except that they have a 2-time MVP.
That is the second
Super Bowl MVP quarterback and Odell Beckham.
That is the second time in this show and about the 20th time since you've been here that you've alluded to mediocrity being good. I'm tired of that. 500 is not good, Max Kellerman. It is not good.
It ain't bad either.
It's mediocre.
Right. That's right.
It's mediocre.
Average.
Most of the league.
Average.
We don't like average.
That is not average.
500
is average. What is wrong with y'all?
Average. 500. I'm not saying average is good. Relax. I don't like average either.
Stephen A., most of the league is like the Bengals. Few teams are like the Patriots
roll around with
and
a Tom Ford suit looking all sharp, but then you're going to bring up average and mediocre as being average? You don't know how to dissect the difference between the two? What has happened to you?
Seahawks were going to beat
the Patriots? What has happened to you?
What do you mean who doesn't know how to dissect?
I don't understand.
I told you Russell Wilson went out playing.
I don't understand you, man. I mean, come on.
Giants going to win this.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to the pod. Catch First Take weekdays 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on ESPN2. Have a great day and enjoy the game.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including, what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Louisville heads to Houston to face a dangerous Cougar team on Thursday night.
47 yards right up the middle.
Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on ESPN and on ESPN Radio. Presented by Dr. Pepper.